First, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in support of Order 21. And I'd like to start by giving a kind of a sense of what it's like to be authentic and to not be authentic. This is being not authentic. This is authentic. When I'm authentic, I'm like this singing bowl. My voice comes from within. That's the source of my authority. That's who I am. And if somebody wants to repress me or suppress me, all they have to do is hold on in some way. Prevent me from doing or being or saying or feeling or expressing myself as I truly am. And I've experienced that kind of discrimination many, many times in my life. I was born in 1944. I knew by the age of 3 or 4 that I was somehow different. I didn't have the conceptualization of what a transgender person is or a transsexual person is. By the time I was in my teens, the only term I knew was transvestite, which was not a very nice term. By the time I got into my later teens, I learned about Christine Jorgensen, and I was absolutely relieved, thrilled to find out that I was not the only one like myself in the world. But I still couldn't do anything about my condition. There was no way that I could make a transition, even though I desperately wanted to. It took me up until the age of 54 when I finally was able to make the transition. And that transition cost me over $100,000 just in out-of-pocket expenses. It cost me 2 jobs. It cost me half of my family. It cost me most of my friends. And despite all of that, the way I feel today, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. Thank you very much. I'm here to show my support for Court Order 21. I work for the City of Fort Worth, where I'm a senior forensic scientist for the Fort Worth Police Department. I'm also transgender, specifically a transsexual, which falls under the gender identity part of this resolution. I transitioned on the job over 4 years ago. During my 6.5 years of living in Fort Worth and working for the Fort Worth Police Department, I've received 3 distinguished and 3 superior ratings on my annual job performances. I've even been nominated for the Police Department Civilian of the Year Award. I tell you this to show you that being a transgender person has nothing to do with someone's ability to do their job, their work ethics, or their roles as citizens, visitors, or employees of Dallas County. We are hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. That's what we're talking about with this proposal to add gender identity and gender expression to the county's anti-discrimination policy. The current policy does not prevent discrimination against transgender citizens, employees, or visitors. Discrimination is not right. It is discrimination for someone to be fired, evicted from their home, or refuse service simply because of who they are, which is what we're talking about. Discrimination should not be allowed. Employees should be judged on their performance and their ability to do their job, period. This resolution reflects what most citizens already believe. Blatant discrimination should not be tolerated anywhere. We're not talking about special treatment for a few. We're talking about the same treatment for everyone. Just last week in Maryland, a post-operative transgender woman was severely beaten at a McDonald's restaurant, which you've heard earlier, simply for using a restroom. A McDonald's employee taped the incident and published it on YouTube instead of coming to the woman's aid. That's not right. Physical attacks, along with employment discrimination against transgender people, happen way too much in our, quote, civilized, unquote, society. City council members, county commissioners, and state and federal legislators have the power to protect people like me from events like these, both in areas of public accommodation and at work. The gender identity and gender expression is added to the Dallas County's anti-discrimination policy that will allow the County of Dallas to join with over 100 cities across the nation, including Fort Worth, a growing number of counties and states, and a majority of the Fortune 500 companies that have already adopted similar ordinances or policies. Thank you.
Regardless of what happens in the vote today, thank you for members of the community who've shown up. It takes guts. Your voices are important. I respect everyone who's spoken today. I'm a district, I reside in Judge Jenkins' district. I proudly work in Judge Price's district. I am the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of Resource Center Dallas at 2701 Reagan Street, Dallas 75219. I thank you for your consideration that has taken place already to add sexual orientation to your non-discrimination policies. I thank you for your thoughtfulness in thinking of expanding that to include gender identity and gender expression for the very solid reasons set forth today. It is absolutely the right thing to do. And you are joined in a line of others who have gone before you in doing this, such as the City of Dallas in 1995. I was there in City Hall. It was a much different scene than it is today. I can assure you that Flip Benham and others were in the gallery praying for those of us who are advocating on behalf of equality. And while we can respect one another, this really all comes down to an issue of fairness in the workplace. It's fairness, it's dignity, and respect. And that's what you're contemplating. And I appreciate your consideration of that in your decision to do the right thing in expanding the policies. You also joined again in 2003 when the City of Dallas expanded to their policy not only from sexual orientation but to add gender identity and gender expression. You would be joining the City of Fort Worth in their visionary adaptation of policy just last year. You would be joining El Paso as a city and Austin as a city. You would be exhibiting true leadership. You would be reinforcing what we know, that Dallas is our home. We want to stay here. We want to work here. We want to contribute here. In addition to what I stated about where I work and where I live, I'm also a mother. I have a 12-year-old son. I'm an attorney. I hope to raise him above anything else I accomplish in my life in a society where we can all be valued based upon our skills and our character, and not every single little category that we might put oneself into. By adopting this policy that you're contemplating today, that's the type of environment you'll be creating. As the county, you are employers. You have gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender employees. As the county, overseeing the massive operations that you do, you serve all communities, including the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender communities. I have heard the argument put forth that there have not been stories from your own employees alleging discrimination from your transgender employees. That's because they do not feel safe. People do not come forward in a workplace when they know that simply by doing that they will be terminated. It is legal in the state of Texas to terminate someone based upon their sexual orientation and their gender identity. The exception is that the employer protects them. Thank you. I know that you are leaders and you will do the right thing today by adopting Court Order 21.
Thank you.